Hey, it's Will from Your Career Mastery, and today we're going to talk about 5 career tips from my 20s that I wanted to share with you. So I'm in my 30s now, as scary as it is to say I turned 33 this year. And so it's been a really interesting exercise in preparation for this video to go back and think about my 20s from a career perspective, but also from a personal perspective too, and really consider the things I would do differently and the big takeaways, the big learnings from that decade of my life, which I now sort of live by, and these are sort of ideas and principles that are now embedded in how I think and how I approach my career. But it's an interesting way to think about what you would do differently. So I've got 5 main tips and a 6th bonus tip, which you can see there, but let's just jump into it. So the first thing, the career tip from my 20s is around travel. So, travel when you're young and you're in your 20s, it's kind of the best time to do it. Because as you get older, you've probably heard your parents talk about this and things like that. I mean, firstly, travel's expensive. As you get older, if you have a mortgage, if you have children, even as you just get into your 30s like I do, I don't have any children yet, I don't have a mortgage, but I have other expenses and I have other goals and other plans for my life. And you have all these different expenses and bills, and rent is somehow more expensive when you're in your 30s because you might live in a bigger place if you've got a partner and things like that. Travel is just harder. Not to mention if you have a career and a full-time job like I do. In Australia, we're very fortunate. We get 4 weeks annual leave a year. I know many countries don't get that. In fact, probably most don't. But even then, 4 weeks, compared to when you're at university and you're younger, many people take several months to go and travel, and very fortunate to be able to do that even in your 20s. But again, it's much easier to do in your 20s than it is in your 30s and beyond. So when you're in your 20s, highly recommend, if you can, if it's feasible for you, if you can afford it, if it's a viable option, to absolutely take as much opportunity to travel, both internationally and within your own country as you can. I 100% recommend internationally, experiencing different cultures. I grew up in Australia. We're so far from everyone, except New Zealand, of course. Much love to New Zealand. But like America is a 14-hour flight away. Getting to Europe, it's like a 30-hour transit. Like we're far from everything, pretty much. So it's a big deal to fly to another country from where we are. So much easier to do when you're young. So prioritizing travel. Firstly, it's expensive. Firstly, when you're older, again, like I said, you don't prioritize travel as you get older because you've got other conflicting plans or a job or a family, or just other, things you're trying to get off the ground in your life that hinder your ability to travel with the same ease you might have when you were in your 20s, and particularly your early 20s. So I've traveled a fair bit. So in my 20s, I went to America a few times. I went to Europe. I went to Thailand, but I wish I did more. I wish I did like a 6-month, 3-month backpacking tour around Europe. Didn't do it, really wish I did. Still have plans to do something like that, but again, harder to do now than it would have been in my 20s when I could have just worked a hospitality job, saved some money, and then gone and traveled. So travel 100%, but also just the experiences you get when you're traveling. That'll help you as a person in your personal development, which will then help your career inadvertently, building things like confidence and resilience and problem solving. When you're in another country, particularly if it's a third world country and no one speaks English, and if English is your native language, you are forced into many problem solving situations you otherwise wouldn't encounter in your day-to-day life in the city you grew up in. So highly recommend it from that perspective. From a more career perspective, working with the smartest people. So something as someone in my 30s, like I notice with more junior people, is that a lot of times junior people in the company, they want to earn, and they want to earn their skin in the company, and they're oftentimes afraid to ask for help. But it's not always from a perspective of being afraid to ask for help. Sometimes it's wanting to show how awesome they are and how driven they are, and they're not dependent on anyone in terms of learning and things like that. If you're young and you're in your 20s, you have to just admit that you don't know a lot of stuff. Like there are people older than you who know things about business and about the field of work that you operate in that you don't even know what you don't know. So I highly recommend that you really leverage the intellectual capital and the sort of experience equity, which is a term I just made up then, of all the people around you. It's very easy to want to try and be the smartest person in the room. If you're in your early 20s, like, unless you're some freak Elon Musk person, you really need to be a sponge. You need to learn from everyone, everyone that's around you. So I highly recommend trying to find the smartest people in the organization that you work in and learning from them, working with them, getting close to them, seeing how they operate, see how they approach problems and challenges, and just learn the hard skills of the field of work that you operate in. Because working with the smartest people, it's going to make you smarter. It's going to make you smarter faster. So be humble, ditch the ego. Ditch trying to show off how good you are and trying to make yourself in the company. It's okay to want to take ownership of things and try to be driven and be hungry when you're young. It's a great trait to have, but also be able to step back and look and say, I don't have all the answers here. There are people around me who are super smart, who have been in business 10, 15, 20 years longer than me. Now, don't take every piece of advice that they offer you necessarily. Take it with a grain of salt, but still take the opportunity to proactively try and learn from these people. It'll again scale your development, but also trying to work with the smartest people and acknowledging you don't have all the answers and going out into the business to find the people that do have those answers. It'll help build your professional network and start building meaningful professional relationships with really smart people in the companies that you operate in. So number one, travel. Number two, ditch the ego. Try and learn from people. Just assume you don't have all the answers and really try to network and scale your development. Then number three here is diversify your experience. So I was really lucky in my 20s. I worked in about 3 different companies. So one was a logistics company. The second was a digital marketing agency. And I was there about 2 years. And then in the warehouse, I was there about 3 years. Or the logistics company, sorry. And then the last place I worked at in my 20s, which carried into my 30s, was a insurance technology or like financial comparison website where people could come and compare financial plans and try and find a better deal and things like that. So I had a lot of very different experience in my 20s. At the digital marketing agency, we worked with a variety of clients. There was we got to travel internationally for conferences and things like that. And then the insurance company that I worked for, that was like the financial comparison side, even then, completely different. So building a diversity of experience in your 20s is so important. It makes you more adaptable because you learn all these different ways of working. You know, between the logistics company, the digital marketing agency, and the insurance company I worked at, all completely different industries, different ways of working, different financial models, different ways of marketing. I learned so much that as then each job I've had has built a new diverse, take on the same sorts of core skills of digital marketing, which has made me more adaptable and more flexible in my approach to solving problems and new strategic opportunities in my current role. So diversify your experience. Try and work for different companies if you can. And when you change jobs, I found for me, I wanted to do something completely different each time. So logistics company to digital marketing agency to insurance financial comparison tech website to now I'm at a global financial, FMCG company. So a consumer goods company that make chocolate and chewing gum and things like that. So completely different ways of working. A lot of the same fundamentals of digital marketing, but completely different business models, industries, and applications, which has made it difficult at times, especially my jump from the insurance tech company to where I am now. The learning curve was pretty steep, but that's what I wanted. I wanted a new challenge and I wanted to scale my development so that I didn't get pigeonholed in my career to one particular industry. So diversify your experience. Try and get a broad, portfolio of work from different companies and different industries, if possible, in your 20s. Makes you more adaptable. Really scales your development so much. And you can look back over that 10 years of your 20s and say, wow, I learned a lot. Build that professional network. So each company I've worked at, I've worked with different people, and all of those relationships have carried me through. People that I worked with in my at the digital marketing job, they were a reference for my job at the FMCG company where I work now. So these relationships, they carry you throughout your career. They're so important and really just very beneficial. And also from a fulfillment perspective. So, in your 20s, you can take risks and you can jump companies every few years if that makes sense for you. Obviously, don't just jump companies for the sake of it. If you really love where you work, stay there, enjoy it. But working at different companies will help show you what kind of industries you like working in, what kind of teams you like working with, what kind of people you like working with, what kind of flexible working arrangements you like working with. So that diversity of experience at different companies will show you or help set up the next 10 years of your career and help you give some direction in terms of what you enjoy and what kind of work you want to do. Then number 4 is build complementary skills. So as you move throughout your career and different jobs in your 20s, you want to build complementary skill sets. And what I mean by that is, for example, I started off as a digital content writer. So that was my core skill, was writing copy for websites, landing pages, social media ads, social media campaigns, all that sort of stuff, email marketing. But I've also added to it presentation skills, search engine optimization, analytical skills, project management skills. So all these different complementary skills that have built a broader skill set, which have allowed me to move up in my career. So, as you work in your 20s and you work at different companies, and as you work in different roles and work with the smartest people, you should be building skill sets that complement your core skill set. So you might specialize in analytics and data or data. You might specialize in content writing or marketing or performance marketing or engineering or plumbing. Look, whatever your field of work is, I often reference digital marketing because my bias is that's where I work. But whatever your niche is, your industry is, build these complementary skills along the way because it will just increase your value. So don't pigeonhole yourself to that core skill set that you have and just because you enjoy that and you want to be a specialist in it. It's great to be a specialist, but you need complementary skills to move up in your career. And as you're looking to change roles and move up sort of the value chain in different companies and make more money, you're going to need to build these complementary skills because that's what's going to be expected of you to, say, lead a team or lead big projects. You need more skills than just your core skill set. So very important. Number 5, no job is 100% secure. So it's important to realize that, I went through a redundancy at my digital marketing role. I was there about 2 years, and one day the boss just said, we're shutting the business down, and that's it. And it was like one of the saddest, most toughest days of my career, especially today. It's the only time we've made redundant, nothing we could do about it. The boss just decided, I'm closing the business, and we all got let go. It was a small team. We all knew each other really well. We traveled together, had a really great working relationship, but it's just one of those things that happen. So I'm glad I learned it in my 20s and not later because it really taught me that you need to have a financial safety net behind you, but also shows you in whatever role you're in, you need to just extract as much value from that role for your own portfolio so that if you do get made redundant, you're better placed to find your next role and have that next role be a move up and a step up for you. So that's why it's so important to diversify your experience, to work with smart people and to build those complementary skills, but also to travel. If you get made redundant, you don't know how long it's going to take you to, change roles or find that next job, which is why it's so important when you're younger, you don't have that risk around a mortgage or a family. It's so important to travel. Seriously, you will thank yourself later in life that you took that opportunity when you're young to do some crazy stuff and to go to India and Africa and all these crazy places and do stuff that you won't do later when you've got kids and a mortgage and things like that. So super, super important, but no job's 100% secure. Things happen in business. I mean, hell, global pandemics happening. Who saw that? Who saw that coming? I certainly didn't see it coming. And look at all the people that lost their jobs around the world because of that. Like, it's crazy. So where I was working at the time, it was the insurance tech company when the pandemic hit. And there are people who'd been in that company 10 years who got made redundant back in like March, April, because the business said, oh my God, we're hitting the skids. We need to slash our expenses. And making people redundant is one of the easiest ways to do that, and one of the fastest. So doesn't matter how long you've been in a company, how long your tenure is, things can happen. And they're usually completely unforeseen and unprecedented. So that's why it's so important to know in advance. No job is secure. Bad things can happen almost out of nowhere. And when you get made redundant, for the most part, you won't see it coming. It will come out of nowhere. So you really need to be prepared and have that financial safety net behind you of like 2 to 3 months salary ready to go. So it buys you some time if you are made redundant and you can find that next dream role. And number 6, to finish on a lighter note, is just enjoy your 20s. Like, a lot of the younger people I see, especially in the company I work at now, they're so intensely driven and they're so focused and it needs to all happen for them now. They need to be successful now. Take a deep breath, relax, be patient. You have a long career ahead of you. You know, your career is not a sprint. It is absolutely a marathon. So you want to enjoy the process. You want to work with people you like. You want to celebrate the wins you have early in your career and all throughout your career. You want to take the time to find out what you like. You know, what kind of work is meaningful for you? What aligns with your skills and your strengths and any sense of purpose that you might have as a person and what you want to contribute in your career. Take the time in your 20s to figure this stuff out now because you'll thank yourself later. Don't wait till your 30s or even your 40s to try and figure out what you want to do and things like that and what resonates with you and what your career is going to look like. Really take your 20s to enjoy it, but also set yourself up for your career and learn some really great base skills, meet some great people, have some fun, travel. Can't emphasize it enough. Like it'll make you a stronger person from doing it, and that will help your career as well. So be patient, learn from people. Hey, take risks. If there's some new startup that isn't paying great, but looks like it could turn into something and looks like it'll be a great development opportunity for you, but maybe on paper, not as attractive as some other role, take it. Take risks, learn some stuff. Like, it's so important. There's no better time in your life to take these kinds of career risks and set yourself up with awesome learning opportunities that'll take you into your 30s and make you just a stronger career advocate, make your portfolio better, but also just set you up for a much more enjoyable long-term career. My name's Will from Your Career Mastery. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you liked it, subscribe to the channel. Plenty of more content coming. And I'd love to know what you thought about these 5 or 6 tips, and drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I'd also love to hear from you. If you've got any other tips from your 20s, feel free to share that in the comments below. Look forward to speaking with you soon. Cheers.